Right, joining us now to discuss is Kevin O'Leary, Shark Tank star, chair of O-Shares Investment Advisors, and backer of Canadian crypto trading platform WonderFi. Hi, Kevin. Always a pleasure to have you. Happy Earth Day.
Thank you.
So climate change is top of mind. When it comes to crypto, lots of concern has been brewing about mining and its energy consumption. The U.S. House Democrats want the Environmental Protection Agency to critically examine it. Will they succeed? Where is the narrative headed?
This all started a few months ago when Larry Fink, in his note to investors, one of the world's largest money managers, brought the concern of sustainability into the model. And then, of course, in the POTUS order from the president himself, buried deep in it, is a discussion about climate change. That's a direct swipe at Bitcoin mining. But the big bomb is the SEC memo contemplating carbon audits. And what that really means, and what the House Democrats are talking about here, is the entire mining industry in the U.S. has gone the route of using carbon offsets to claim carbon neutrality. So if you're a Hut 8 or you're a Marathon, a Riot, Hive, all of these entrepreneurial miners who really have come to the public markets over the last 2 years, they're all using carbon offsets. Now, everybody knows that a carbon offset is unauditable. There's no ledger to prove that if you buy a square mile of the Amazon rainforest, you can claim that you're carbon neutral. It's a nice marketing idea, but when the SEC mandates, you're not going to get a single public auditor to sign those statements, because what they're contemplating is signing quarterly statements the same way for financial statements on neutrality of carbon. And so those companies are, for a lack of a better word, screwed, because they're going to get into a fight when this becomes policy to try and prove that they are not offside on carbon. So the entire industry is moving in a new direction. They're not even waiting for this to become law. If you're looking at institutional capital today, the two sources of power for creating Bitcoin mining are going to be nuclear power and hydropower. So that favors places like Quebec, Canada, Norway, Montana, North Dakota, Tennessee Valley. And I think even as we speak, with the largest, carbon zero mining facility in the world is being built in a small village in northern Norway by a company called Bitzero. And their largest shareholders are out of the United Arab Emirates. So that is institutional capital moving into this market and solving for the problem that these lawmakers are going after. Proof of work in the EU was an attempt to shut down Bitcoin mining. Thank goodness it wasn't voted in. But now you've got politicians saying we've got to find a way to stop wasting energy to mine Bitcoin. And the solution is obvious. It's nuclear power and it's excess hydropower. So I think in terms of my initiatives, I've sold all those stocks that I used to index because they were a good proxy to Bitcoin pricing, and I'm now investing in private miners like the one in Norway.
Interesting. So many things I want to mention in there. On the one hand, they say Bitcoin mining, it's consuming more energy than Ukraine and Norway. Others say it's not a fair comparison. It's more like, Christmas lights consumption in North America. Others say as well it's contributing to the innovation in renewable energy. So on that front, I'm wondering, are there environmentally conscious projects that you're investing in? I think you mentioned, you're into nuclear and hydroelectric.
Well, if you find a place like northern Quebec or specifically northern Norway, where they built in infrastructure decades ago with an excess capacity of hydroelectricity, the argument becomes reversed to the claims that are occurring now. By taking excess electricity that's not being used, converting it into Bitcoin, you're actually saving energy. You're doing something that's important to that country, that community, the tax base there. In addition, the Bitzero model, the Norway model, if you want to call it that, becomes part of the community. It's providing computing power, data center services to the local university, but it goes even farther. They're taking the excess heat from the stacks and providing heat to a hydroponics facility with a canner beside it to make tomatoes. Because in northern Norway, it's an Arctic climate. It's not easy to grow tomatoes. And they're providing to the community that important source of protein in food. And so there is a way to change the dialogue on Bitcoin mining to make it more integrated into communities where it's being set up. Now, this is against the model of the rogue Bitcoin miner that goes in and taps into some electrical power, mines coin while it's profitable, then leaves town with their container later. That's not the model. And so when you go to local government and you propose a long 20, 30, 40, 50-year proposal for mining Bitcoin and also providing data services, that's different. Every sector of the economy now needs a data center. I don't care if you're an automotive company or financial services, you need to store data. And because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict that occurred, most sovereign countries now want their data contained on their own soil. The Canadians want that. The Georgians want that. The Brazilians want that. Everybody wants that. And that is the insatiable demand for data centers. A use case right now to get capital into building a very expensive data center is to mine Bitcoin or mine Ethereum or mine crypto or support the crypto economy. And I think that's where this conflict is going to get resolved. I've made my decision. I'm going into my dollars are going into miners that are carbon zero, like the Bitzero team in Norway, that are building facilities all around the world with the same model. But it requires nuclear power or hydro. Wind and solar are not there yet. Hydrogen, not there yet. Right now, if you want to get up and running, it's going to be nuclear power or excess hydropower. And that is where the puck is going in that old proverbial analog. So the existing miners, they unfortunately, while they're great entrepreneurs, have the arrows in their back because of policy being pushed on them by politicians who've decided their activity is not carbon neutral. For lack of a better word, what's really being called out here are carbon credits. Everybody knows they're BS, including the politicians.
That's interesting because the mining industry is the most transparent in terms of their energy use and what they're mining. It's compared to other industries where you can't really determine that. The facts are foggy, like in gold, commodities, and whatnot. So the EU Commission I mentioned earlier, as well as Swedish regulators, they want to move Bitcoin away from proof of work mining. And I wonder, how is that conversation going in boardrooms? Are they suddenly wanting to move away from something like Bitcoin mining towards more proof of stake protocols like ETH, like Solana, like Avalanche?
That's never going to happen in Bitcoin. And I think it behooves the Bitcoin community, of which I'm a member, to explain to politicians why proof of work is important towards driving us to a new, greener planet. I mean, basically, I did that yesterday. I was meeting with politicians, the senator and the governor in North Dakota the previous day, in Montana, explaining that the hydropower inherent in those states can be something very important, that we can bring capital to work there, build data centers for all sectors of the economy, mine Bitcoin, and do it on a sustainable basis if we get access to hydro and nuclear power. And so that's the whole idea. It's now behooves the Bitcoin community to get back out there. It used to be they never wanted to lobby or talk about this issue. You have to do it now. You have to convince lawmakers that there's a good way to mine coin that's beneficial for the community of their states or their countries. And that's the job that I've taken on because I believe in it. I think it's very important. In Norway is a good example. And, that's the whole idea. Take those politicians to the Norway facility. In this last 2 days in both Montana and in North Dakota, I brought Norway to them. I brought some of the engineers from Norway. We sat at the table, we talked about the project, and we began convincing them why it was a good thing. And I think we're doing a great job there. But the old ways of mining, ignoring politicians, ignoring policymakers, ignoring government, ignoring the SEC, those days are over. Those decisions have been made. And you can see it happen because the public mining companies in the U.S. used to be a direct proxy to Bitcoin pricing, but there no longer are. Those stocks have been crushed. They've gone down way more than Bitcoin has because everybody knows carbon credits are BS, and they're going to get called out for it when the SEC forces an audit, which no accounting firm is going to sign.
Another conversation I want to talk about, you once campaigned to be the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Now we see Pierre Poilievre. He's running for the role to be Prime Minister of Canada, and he's passionate about Bitcoin. And he said that, government is running the Canadian dollar, so Canadians should have the freedom to use other money, such as Bitcoin. I want to know your thoughts on Poilievre.
Yeah, I think he's a very good orator. I think he's done a great job on social media, but I don't think he's going to lead the country, and I'll tell you why. Canadians have lived through a long and painful period of mismanagement by the existing government. And many Canadians now want better management skills, because the way the parliamentary system works, like the British, is that the Prime Minister's role is to put in each file in his cabinet people that have skill sets to actually run those mandates. For example, you would think in the case of a finance minister, which is the second most important job in the parliament in Canada, you would try and find someone who had some experience in finance, maybe ran a bank, maybe ran a mandate to manage capital, had some experience in the national financial markets. Instead, Justin Trudeau, who's been a very successful politician, but a horrific manager, put a journalist in that role. In the role of providing vaccine to Canadians during the pandemic, he put somebody there who'd never done that before. And as a result, Canadians got their vaccines a year late. Many people lost their lives. That discussion continues. In the case of military procurement, again, someone with no experience in weapon systems running that's just plain mismanagement. And Canadians over the years have figured that out now. And so what's going to occur is that Justin Trudeau will never, ever create a majority mandate for his party again. He's lost a lot of power recently and is now in having to maintain a partnership with the left-wing Communist Party or Socialist Party, whatever you want to call it up there. But most Canadians are just tired of that. And it doesn't matter what your political bias is. They want someone with leadership skills that are proven, that actually have a resume that's done this before. And that leads to Charest, who's also running against Pierre. I'm betting that Jean Charest will become Prime Minister of Canada in a leadership race against Freeland, the existing journalist that is running, that will basically take over from Trudeau. I think there's going to be an infight in the party. They don't want to run him again because he's a loser. He can't bring a majority mandate back, but they'll thank him for his service, and he'll be gone. And then it'll be a Freeland versus Charest. Now you compare those two resumes, Canadians are going to want to go for someone who actually has the skill to manage the country. Right. That's going to be Charest. That's my call. It'll heat up in
full
August.
Of fire in this conversation. All right. But going back to Bitcoin, what should Bitcoin and crypto's role be in Canada? Should it be a tool for freedom or have limitations the way Prime Minister Justin Trudeau demonstrated when he wanted to freeze the bank accounts of Canadian truckers?
No, what Trudeau did is un-Canadian. Most Canadians figured out that was a terrible move. He got, decimated in public opinion globally, including by a politician in The Hague. And I'm just plain embarrassed as a Canadian, and that's why I want him removed. He is an embarrassment to the country. Those kinds of things are not what the Canadian psyche is about. We believe in a strong banking system. We believe in the rule of law. That is what makes the Canadian banking system the most successful on earth. Even during the financial crisis, the Canadian banks did better than any other on earth. And so what we want is, we don't believe in rogue crypto. And I'm speaking now as a Canadian. What we believe in is policy from government. And the Canadian government has been the most advanced in the world on crypto. They were the first to issue a crypto exchange attached to a dealer broker. I know that because WonderFi bought it. That was BitBuy. WonderFi just bought another license in the last few days. That was Coinberry. So almost 700,000 users legally trading coin in Canada under the order of the Canadian government. The first ETF for Bitcoin in the world was under the order from the Canadian government, trades there. Same with the first ETF for Ethereum. So the Canadian government has done a fantastic job in bringing forward cryptocurrencies as a financial tool, as for in advancing financial services in that country. It's the model for the whole world. And many people take the Order of Canada that was put out by the OSC, the regulator there, and apply it to their own markets, like in Switzerland and in Germany and the United Arab Emirates. Mm-hmm. It's basically based on the Canadian law. So this Pierre's idea of rogue currency is not going to work. That does not sit well with Canadians. That will be a mistake on his behalf. And he's using it to create a debate on social media. That's fine for social media. But when they go to the voting poll, it's not going to work.
Interesting. I also saw that you have a big crypto bag. 20% of your wealth is in crypto, and you have 32 positions. I wonder what your biggest winners and losers are.
I apply the same rule to that portfolio that I use for managing stocks. And so we have 11 sectors in the S&P, and my rule is the same as mandated by most sovereign wealth funds: no more than 20% in any one sector, no more than 5% in any one stock. So I believe that crypto and financial services and digital services will be the 12th sector of the economy in the next decade. And so I'm managing it that way. I've put 20% of the portfolio into crypto across 32 positions. No one is bigger than 5%. My largest holding is Bitcoin and, of course, Ethereum. I'm kind of weighting them based on market cap. But I also am a big believer in what's going on with USDC. That's a big holding for me. Also, Polygon, really like that team there with Sandeep. You know, Bitcoin's not a coin. I've said this countless times. It's software. These are all software projects. So I'm very fortunate I can meet these teams, can talk to these engineers, determine which ones look like they have good economic ideas to create value, and invest in them. And so I've got positions in all of these companies, and I think over time we'll determine which ones bring utility, which ones bring value, and they'll trade accordingly. Obviously, I'm not going to make money in all 32, but I don't need them all to work. That's the whole theory of portfolio, is to have diversification, and you're going to get your winners as they come along. And I'm big proponent of what's going on with Solana. I'm a shareholder in FTX. I'm a paid spokesperson for them too. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, this is a sector of the economy, and you've got to deploy some capital here, make your bets, look at the utility, and ride out the volatility. It's going to be volatile, but that's the nature of a nascent, emerging sector.